Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're opening up a file that, on the surface, looks like it belongs in the culinary section. Maybe the business section.
Right. A classic success story.
But once you actually start reading through these sources, the biographies, the corporate histories, the historical context, you realize this. This belongs in the philosophy section.
Or maybe even the self-help section. It really does.
It's a story about a product that is so ubiquitous, so cheap and just, so everywhere that we've completely stopped seeing it.
We absolutely take it for granted.
I guarantee every single person listening to this has a memory involving this product. Maybe it was a late night in a college dorm.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it was a quick lunch between meetings. We are talking, of course, about instant noodles.
The humble block of dried noodles.
But hold on, before you roll your eyes and think, okay, are we really going to spend an hour talking about sodium content and flavor packets? No.
We are not.
Because the story behind the noodle is infinitely more interesting than the noodle itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This isn't really a food story. It's a story about desperate resilience. It's a story about a man who lost absolutely everything in the middle of his life.
Everything.
And decided to change the world from a tiny shed in his backyard.
We are talking about Momofuku Ando, the founder of Nissin Foods. And the reason I am so hyped to get into this specific stack of research is the recurring theme. It just hits you over the head again and again in these articles. It is never too late.
That is the core message. If you take nothing else away from this deep dive, it's that age is truly just a number. It is not a barrier.
I mean, looking at the timeline we have here, it is wild. We are talking about a guy who was destitute, and I mean rock bottom, at age 47.
37.
He reinvents himself. Then he reinvents the industry again at 60. And then, just to show off, he sends his invention into outer space when he was in his 90s.
In his 90s. He was heading up a project team at 91 years old.
Can you imagine?
Most people are slowing down at 60. He was just hitting his second stride.
So, our mission today is to unpack the spirit of Momofuku Ando. We want to understand how this guy ticked. How did he look at a pot of hot oil and see the future of global cuisine?
And more importantly, how did he find the energy to start over when society told him he should be finished?
It's a profound lesson in tenacity.
Tenacity as the breeding ground for inspiration. That's the key.
So let's rewind the clock. Let's set the stage. Who was Momofuku Ando before he became the Noodle King? Because he didn't start out making food, did he?
No, not at all. Not even close. He was born in 1910 in Taiwan, which was under Japanese rule at the time. And his start in life was tragic.
Yeah, I saw that.
He lost both his parents at a very early age.
Orphaned young. That's a tough start for anyone.
It forces you to grow up fast. He was raised by his grandparents, and they owned a wholesale kimono fabric shop.
Okay.
The sources all emphasize that this was his real classroom. He wasn't learning business from a textbook or an MBA program. He was watching it happen on the tatami mats right in front of him.
He was a toddler watching negotiations, watching inventory management.
Exactly. He saw the flow of goods and money. He saw how a business really worked from the ground up. And that clearly sparked something in him because he didn't wait around to get started.
I'm looking at the notes here. He started his first company at 22.
22 years old. He founded a company selling knitted goods. And it wasn't a small side hustle. The sources say it was actually quite successful. He just had a natural knack for commerce.
But what stands out to me in this early part of his life, his 20s and 30s, is how frenetic his resume is. He wasn't just a textile guy. He was all over the place.
He was restless, incredibly restless.
I'm reading this list of ventures: slide projectors, charcoal production, barrack housing, salt production, and founding a school.
It looks chaotic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like he couldn't make up his mind.
It looks like he was just throwing things at the wall to see what stuck.
But if you analyze that list, there's a very specific pattern. It shows his ability to grasp emerging trends and, more importantly, immediate needs.
Okay, break that down for me. Slide projectors.
Well, education and visual media were on the rise. It was a new technology. Why charcoal? Because in the lead up to and during the war, fuel was scarce. People were cold. It was a basic necessity.
Why barrack?
Housing shortages. Why salt? Because salt production had completely collapsed during the war, and you physically cannot live without salt.
So he wasn't just chasing money.
No, he was chasing utility. He wanted to do, and this is a quote, something new that no one else was doing, or something that filled a desperate gap in society. He was looking for pain points.
So he was a serial entrepreneur before that term even existed?
Exactly. He was adaptable. And that adaptability was about to be tested in the most extreme way possible.
Because history intervenes. World War II happens, and obviously that changes everything for everyone in Japan.
It completely reset the board. And this brings us to the motivation chapter of our story. We really have to paint the picture of post-war Japan to understand why instant noodles even exist.
It wasn't just that buildings were destroyed. It was a full-blown humanitarian crisis.
It was an apocalyptic landscape. The cities were firebombed into rubble. But the bigger enemy wasn't the debris, it was the hunger.
Right.
The food distribution systems had completely collapsed. The sources describe people literally collapsing and dying of malnutrition in the streets.
That is a horrifying image, just walking to work, or what was left of work, and seeing people starving to death.
And Ando is walking through these streets. He's witnessing this suffering firsthand. And this is where his philosophy crystallizes. He realized that all the high-minded concepts, art, culture, law, politics, none of it matters if your stomach is empty.
It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs right there in the real world. You can't worry about democracy if you're starving.
He famously said, "Food is the foundation. If you are hungry, you cannot build a society." That belief became the bedrock of everything he did later.
And there's this one specific moment, a catalyst moment, that appears in almost every account of his life.
The black market scene.
Tell us about that.
This is the scene that seems to have haunted him. It's near Osaka Station, shortly after the war. The infrastructure's gone, it's freezing cold. You can just imagine that biting winter wind. And Ando sees a massive line of people.
Just huddled together.
Shivering, miserable, dressed in rags. And they're all waiting for one thing.
A bowl of ramen.
A single bowl of warm ramen from a makeshift black market stall. And Ando looks at this line and he sees two things. First, he sees the human desperation for warmth and calories. But second, because he is an entrepreneur at heart,
He sees an opportunity.
he sees enormous hidden demand. He sees a market gap.
He realizes that the Japanese people have a deep cultural craving for noodles. But there was a disconnect?
A huge disconnect. At that time, the Japanese government was receiving massive aid from the United States in the form of surplus wheat flour.
Right, the occupation forces were bringing in food to prevent mass starvation.
But the government was using that flour to encourage people to make bread and biscuits. They were pushing a Western diet.
Eat bread. It's what the Americans eat.
Pretty much. And the government argued that making noodles was too inefficient because it was done by hand and sold by small vendors. They wanted industrial bread production.
But Ando looked at that line of shivering people and thought they were completely wrong.
He questioned it deeply. He thought, why are we pushing bread on a culture that loves noodles? Why can't we use this American wheat to make noodles? He saw that the eating habits of the people were being ignored by the policymakers.
That makes so much sense. But he didn't run home and start making noodles right then, did he?
No, not immediately. He had the observation, he planted the seed. But he was still involved in other businesses. He was actually serving as the director of a credit union at the time.
Which brings us to part 2 of the story. The fall. The moment where everything goes wrong.
The year is 1957. Ando is 47 years old.
I want to pause on the age for a second. In 1957, 47 was older than it is today. You were supposed to be settled. You were supposed to be thinking about retirement or at least coasting on your success.
He was a director of a bank. He was a pillar of the community. He should have been set for life.
But in 1957, that credit union went bankrupt.
And because he was a director,
He was on the hook.
in those days, directors often held unlimited liability. When the bank collapsed, the responsibility fell on him.
So when you say he lost everything,
I mean everything. His house, his savings, his assets from all those previous ventures like the salt and the charcoal, it was all seized to pay the debts. He was left with literally nothing but a small rented house in Aikita City, Osaka.
imagine the psychological toll of that. You've spent 25 years building businesses, you've survived the war, you've clawed your way up, and at 47, you are back to zero.
Actually, in a shame-based culture like Japan's at the time, it feels like less than zero. Many men in that position would have just given up. They would have taken a quiet, low-level job and hidden away.
But this is where Ando differs from most people. This is that resilience we talked about in the intro.
He performed a mental reset. He famously said, "I only lost my property."
I only lost my property. That is such a powerful reframing.
He meant that he still had his health. He still had his brain. He still had his experience. The stuff was gone, but the potential remained. He decided that the bankruptcy wasn't an end. It was a clearing of the decks.
So he's sitting in this rented house, broke, 47 years old, and he decides, okay, now is the time to execute that idea I had years ago standing near Osaka Station.
The noodles. He decides to create a ramen that could be prepared quickly, eaten at home, and requires only hot water.
So he goes from the boardroom to the shed.
Literally a shed. He built a makeshift wooden shed in his backyard. It's about 10 square meters. No fancy laboratory, no team of scientists, just a guy, a wok, and some flour.
And did he know how to make noodles? Professionally?
He was a complete amateur. He had zero prior noodle-making experience. He was figuring it out completely from scratch.
So he's 47, broke, working in a shed, trying to invent a new kind of food with no experience.
And working alone. The sources emphasize this point. He slept only 4 hours a night on average.
Yeah.
He took no days off for an entire year.
That is grueling. I can't even imagine the mental and physical toll.
It's the kind of grit that is hard to comprehend. Just day after day of failure, alone, with no guarantee it would ever work.
Let's talk about that failure. Because we see the packet of instant noodles today and think, oh, simple. But it was not simple to invent.
Not at all. He had 5 very specific objectives. And achieving all 5 of them simultaneously is an engineering nightmare.
Okay, walk us through the 5 objectives.
Number 1, it has to have a delicious taste.
Yeah.
People shouldn't get tired of it. It can't just be emergency rations. It has to be good.
Number 2.
Non-perishable. It needs a long shelf life so you can store it.
3.
Quick and easy preparation. No cooking skills required. Just add hot water.
4.
Inexpensive. It has to be affordable for the masses.
And number 5.
Safe and sanitary. It has to be produced in a way that's clean and trustworthy.
It's that combination of non-perishable and quick prep that seems like the real trick. Usually if you dry something out to make it last, it takes forever to rehydrate.
Like dried beans.
You have to soak them overnight.
Exactly. That was the central conflict. He spent countless days making trial products and throwing them away. He tried drying them in the sun, smoking them, salting them. But they would either rot because they weren't dry enough, or they would turn into rocks that wouldn't soften in hot water.
He wrote that food development is about finding a single perfect balance. It's not just mixing ingredients.
He needed a way to dehydrate the noodles so they wouldn't spoil, but do it in a way that left the door open for water to get back in instantly.
And the breakthrough didn't come from a textbook. It didn't come from some food science journal.
No, it came from the kitchen. The eureka moment. It's a classic story of observation.
He was watching his wife, right?
Yes. He walked into the kitchen one day, probably exhausted and frustrated, and saw his wife frying tempura for dinner.
Tempura, the fried vegetables and shrimp.
Right. And he just stood there and watched what happened when the batter-coated vegetables hit the hot oil.
What did he see?
He saw the violence of it. The high heat of the oil causes the moisture in the batter to boil instantly. It turns to steam and rushes out.
Okay.
And as that steam rushes out, it creates bubbles in the batter.
Bubbles.
Tiny holes, cores. When the tempura is done, it's crispy and full of these little air pockets.
And he connects the dots.
He has this flash of insight. He realizes, this is it. If he flash fries the cooked noodles, the high heat will force the moisture out instantly. That dehydrates them so they won't rot.
Checking the non-perishable box.
Exactly. But, and this is the genius part, because the moisture rushes out so fast, it leaves behind all these tiny cavities, these microscopic pores. So, later, when the customer adds hot water,
the water rushes into those pores.
It rushes in, penetrates the noodle instantly from all sides, and restores the softness in just a couple of minutes.
That is brilliant physics. It solves both problems at once, preservation and rehydration.
It's called flash frying, and it became the foundation of the entire instant noodle industry. That moment, watching his wife make dinner, changed everything.
So he has the method. He has the product. It's 1958. He launches chicken ramen, or chicken ramen.
It was dubbed magic ramen because it was ready in 2 minutes.
It wasn't an overnight success in terms of sales,
So
was
it
it?
were resistance. And this is interesting. The price, he priced it at 35 yen.
Is that expensive? What's the context for that?
At the time, a fresh bundle of udon noodles from a shop was about 6 yen.
Whoa. So he's selling this dried, packaged thing for almost 6 times the price of fresh noodles.
Exactly. Wholesalers laugh at him. They said, this won't sell. It's too expensive. People can just go buy fresh noodles for cheaper.
So how did he overcome that?
The product spoke for itself. It was convenient. It was tasty. And crucially, the timing was perfect.
How so? What was happening in Japan at that time?
We have to look at the societal context. Japan was changing rapidly in the late 50s. The economic miracle was starting. Nuclear families were becoming more common, replacing the multi-generational households.
Fewer grandmothers at home cooking all day.
Exactly. And more women were entering the workforce. Double-income households were on the rise. People had money. but they didn't have time.
And supermarkets were just starting to appear.
Which was the perfect venue for packaged processed foods. Plus, TV commercials were starting. Ando was one of the first to really leverage TV advertising. He bypassed the skeptical wholesalers and went straight to the consumer.
So he bet on convenience when everyone else was worried about price.
And he won. The magic ramen became a sensation. Housewives loved it. The sources call it a boon to homemakers. The wholesalers who had rejected him were suddenly inundated with orders.
The sources described trucks lining up at the factory just to get stock.
That's the dream. He went from the shed to mass production. He redeemed his reputation. He built his fortune back.
So story over, right? He's 50, he's rich, he's successful, time to play golf.
You would think. But Ando wasn't done. He was never done.
He wanted to go global. He wanted the whole world to eat noodles.
And this leads us to part 4, the invention of cup noodles. And at this point, how old is he?
We are jumping to 1966 now. So he is 56 going on 60 during this development phase.
Again, most people would be eyeing the exit. He's looking to conquer America.
So he visits the U.S. in 1966 to inspect the market. He wants to see if he can sell chicken ramen there. And he runs into a cultural wall.
A huge cultural wall.
What is the problem?
He was trying to sell chicken ramen in bags. But Americans in the mid-60s, we didn't have ramen bowls. We didn't really use chopsticks.
Right, we use flat plates and forks. Soup was something you ate from a shallow bowl with a spoon. The whole concept was foreign.
Exactly. So he's in a supermarket in the U.S. meeting with buyers, and he watches them try to eat his product. They had no idea what to do.
So what did they do?
They have to break the noodle block into chunks, put it into a paper coffee cup, pour hot water in, and then try to eat it with a fork.
It was clunky. It was a hack. It sounds awkward.
It was. But Ando saw it and thought, aha, he had another one of those moments.
Vessel is the problem.
Yes. He realized that eating habits were the barrier to globalization. If he wanted the West to eat noodles, he couldn't force them to buy bowls and learn chopsticks. He had to change the vessel. He needed a container you could hold in one hand and eat with a fork.
Thus, the concept of the cup noodle was born. But again, easier said than done.
Much, much harder. This was a massive engineering challenge. First, the cup itself.
They didn't have styrofoam cups back then.
Not really. Polystyrene foam was a new material. It was lightweight and heat insulating, perfect for holding hot soup without burning your hand. But it was rare in Japan, and it wasn't food grade.
So they had to invent the manufacturing process?
They had to refine the material until it was odorless and safe enough to meet strict FDA standards.
Yeah.
Just like they had to build a plastics factory alongside the noodle factory just to make the cups.
Okay, so they built the cup, but then there's the issue of getting the noodles into the cup.
This is one of my favorite engineering stories. It sounds so trivial to just put the noodle block in the cup. But think about it. The cup is papered. It's wider at the top, narrow at the bottom.
Right.
If the noodle block is smaller than the bottom of the cup, it rattles around. It breaks during shipping. You open it up, and it's just dust.
Bad customer experience. Nobody wants noodle dust.
But if it's tight so it doesn't rattle, how do you get it in? It gets stuck halfway down. Or it tips over and jams the whole machine.
It's a square peg in a round hole problem. Or rather, a tight peg in a tapered hole.
Exactly. And Ando struggled with this. The noodles kept tipping or crushing. Then we have another one of these classic epiphany moments.
Don't tell me it involves tempura this time.
No. This time it involves sleep deprivation and a ceiling.
Go on.
He's lying in bed, just obsessing over this problem, can't sleep, and he feels the ceiling spin. Maybe he was dizzy from exhaustion, maybe it was a dream. But the image of the spinning room gave him an idea.
What was the idea?
Reverse thinking. He realized, I'm trying to drop the noodles into the cup. That's the problem. What if I drop the cup onto the noodles?
Wait, really? Just flip the whole process.
Yes. On the assembly line, they turned the solid noodle block upside down on a pedestal, and then the machine brings the empty cup down from above and presses it perfectly over the noodles.
That is genius. It's so simple when you hear it.
It solved everything. It allowed for perfect alignment every single time. And it also led to this concept they called middle retention.
Middle retention sounds like a corporate buzzword.
It's brilliant physics. If you look at a cup noodle today, go buy one and actually look at it, the noodle block is actually wider than the bottom of the cup. It is suspended in the middle. It grips the sides of the cup.
Wait, so there's empty space at the bottom? Under the noodles?
Yes. And that's intentional. It does two things. One, it acts as a shock absorber. The noodles don't break if you drop the cup. And two, it allows hot water to circulate underneath the noodles for even cooking.
I have eaten hundreds of these in my life, and I never realized that. I just thought it was noodles in a cup.
It's a highly engineered suspension system.
I love that. So they have the cup, they have the system. It's 1971. They launched Cup Noodles. He is 61 years old.
And it was a flop.
Again. He has to go through this again.
Again. The price was 100 yen.
Oof. Chicken ramen was 35, right?
And by 1971, bag ramen had dropped to about 25 yen due to competition. So cup noodles was 4 times the price of regular instant noodles.
That's a luxury item at that point.
Retailers balked. They said, no one will pay this. Plus, there was a cultural stigma. In Japan at the time, eating while standing was considered bad manners. It was rude. And this product was designed to be eaten on the go.
So he's fighting price and he's fighting etiquette.
So Ando decides to go guerrilla.
Guerrilla marketing 1971.
He went to Ginza, the most fashionable district in Tokyo. On Sundays, they closed the main street to cars, creating what they called a pedestrian paradise.
Where all the young, cool people hung out.
Exactly. He targeted the youth. He set up these tasting events and sampling sales right there on the street. And it was a massive hit. They were selling 20,000 servings a day.
Because young people didn't care about the standing up rule.
They thought it was cool. Eating out of a cup with a fork felt American. It felt modern. It was like eating a hamburger.
And he also used vending machines.
Yes, this was crucial. He installed 20,000 vending machines that had hot water dispensers built right in.
That solves the how do I make this problem instantly. You buy it, you make it, you eat it. All in one spot.
But the real tipping point, the moment that made cup noodles a national icon, was a completely unexpected historical event.
The Osama Sanso incident.
February 1972. It was a hostage crisis. A revolutionary armed group took a hostage in a mountain villa in Nagano.
This is a huge news story in Japan. Like, a whole country was watching.
It was broadcast live on TV every day. The entire nation was glued to the screen. And it was freezing cold in the mountains. Deep snow.
And the police, the riot squad, were there besieging the villa for days.
And they were starving and freezing. Their regular bento boxes, rice balls and pickles, were freezing solid in the cold. They couldn't eat them. So what did they eat?
Cup noodles.
Cup noodles. Viewers all over Japan turned on their TVs and saw these tough police officers standing in the snow, slurping steaming hot noodles from these white cups with the red lettering.
You can't buy that kind of publicity. That's the best product placement in history.
It was viral marketing before the internet. Everyone saw the steam rising from the cups and thought, I want that warmth. I want that comfort.
And sales exploded.
They flew off the shelves. And from there, it went global. Cup of noodles in the U.S. in 1973, Brazil, Singapore, Europe.
And he was smart about localization too, right? He didn't just force the Japanese soy sauce flavor on everyone.
No, and that goes back to his observation of the U.S. supermarket. He knew he had to adapt. They developed flavors specifically for each market. Creamy soups for Europe, spicy flavors for parts of Asia. He understood that while the format could be universal, the flavor had to be local.
So by the 1980s and 90s, he's a legend. He's wealthy. He's changed the world. He could stop. He's in his 80s.
He could, but that's just not who he was.
Let's talk about part 6, Space Ram.
This is my favorite part of the story. The year is 2001. Momofuku Ando is 91 years old.
91.
And he declares to his team, we will develop space food.
Why? Why bother at 91?
Because he believed that instant noodles were a global food and the next frontier was space. It was the ultimate test of his technology. He wanted to complete the journey.
And he didn't just delegate this, did he? Tell his team, go figure it out.
No. The sources say he had the project team himself. He was in the meetings, tasting the samples, giving feedback at 91.
That is just so inspiring. But space food is tricky. Zero gravity is a huge problem.
Huge technical hurdles. You can't have liquid soup floating around in droplets. It would get into the sensitive instruments and short-circuit the shuttle.
So how did they fix that?
They had to thicken the soup. They made it more like a gravy so it would cling to the noodles and stay in the cup through surface tension. And they had to change the shape of the noodles.
No slurping.
You can't slurp a long noodle in space easily without flinging soup everywhere. So they made them into bite-sized balls or small bundles. But here is the poetic full circle. To dry the noodles for space, to make them non-perishable for the long journey, guess what technology they used?
Don't tell me.
The flash frying method.
The same thing he invented in the shed in 1958.
The exact same core technology. It worked in the shed with a wok And it worked for the space shuttle nearly 50 years later.
That gives me chills. It's
You
like
know.
the physics held up. That
Yeah.
one simple, elegant idea was robust enough for anything.
In July 2005, the Space Shuttle Discovery launched. And on board, astronaut Soichi Noguchi became the first human to eat instant noodles in space.
And Ando was there to see it.
He was 95.
Yeah.
He watched it happen from Mission Control. He said, "I'm happy I could make my dream come true." And then he said something that it sums up his whole life.
What was it?
There's no such thing as too late in life.
There's no such thing as too late in life. That needs to be on a t-shirt. Or tattooed on my arm.
It's a powerful statement coming from a 95-year-old who just sent his invention to orbit. His enthusiasm literally escaped the bonds of Earth.
So he conquered the kitchen, the street corner, the world, and then space. But we also need to touch on his legacy here on Earth. Because for him, it wasn't just about profits or engineering.
No. Remember his origin story? He started because he saw hunger. He started because he saw people shivering in the cold. And that empathy never left him.
Part 7, Legacy.
The Great Hanshin-Awaji earthquake in 1995. This was a massive disaster in Kobe.
That was devastating, wiped out huge parts of the city.
It was. And Ando, who was in his 80s then, immediately flashed back to the post-war ruin. He knew it was coming.
Hunger and cold.
He mobilized the company immediately. He sent out kitchen cars, basically food trucks equipped with hot water, to the disaster zone.
To feed the victims and rescue workers?
They served hot chicken ramen to thousands of people who had lost their homes. He famously said, "I never want people to endure the same hardship again."
It's amazing how consistent his life philosophy was. From 1945 to 1995, people need hot food to survive. It's that simple.
It became a core part of Nissan's corporate identity. They did the same for the 2011 earthquake, the Kumamoto earthquake. They founded the World Instant Noodles Association, or WINA, to coordinate disaster relief globally.
And they have those educational initiatives too, the rolling stock concept.
Yes. Rolling stockers. It's a clever idea. Instead of buying emergency food that tastes bad and letting it sit in a closet for 5 years until it expires,
You buy food you actually eat.
you buy noodles,
Yeah.
you eat them regularly, and you just replace what you eat. So you always have a fresh stockpile, you cycle through it.
Practical survival skills for everyone.
Exactly. He wanted people to be prepared.
So bringing it to the end, Momofuku Ando worked until the very end, didn't he?
He did. In January 2007, he gave a speech at the company's New Year kickoff ceremony.
How old was he?
He was 96.
Still leading the charge. Incredible.
He spoke for 30 minutes, standing up. The reports say he was sharp, lucid, and full of energy. And then, just a few days later, he passed away.
It was sudden.
Acute myocardial infarction. But it fulfilled his desire. He always said he wanted to live healthy and die healthy. He didn't wither away. He was active, working, and inspiring people until his last breath.
The New York Times honored him as Mr. Noodles.
A fitting title.
So let's unpack this. What does this all mean for us, for you, the listener?
Well, if we just summarize the journey, lost his parents, found success, survived the war, saw starvation, went through total bankruptcy at 47.
Then the shed.
Then the shed.
Okay.
Then global success. Then space at 95. It's a roller coaster.
It is. But the takeaway for me is so clear. That phrase you used earlier.
Tenacity is the breeding ground for inspiration.
Yes, that's it.
Many people think inspiration strikes like lightning. You sit there and you wait for a good idea. Ando proves that inspiration comes while you are struggling. It comes while you're sweating in a shed at 2 a.m.
It comes when you are staring at a ceiling spinning because you're so tired you can barely think straight.
Exactly. If he hadn't been in the shed, struggling, he never would have seen the tempura bubbles and connected the dots. If he hadn't been in the U.S. watching people struggle with forks, he never would have invented the cup. The inspiration is a reward for the effort.
And the other big takeaway for me is the observation piece.
Yes.
He was always looking. He looked at the line of people on the black market. He looked at the tempura. He looked at the Americans breaking the noodles into cups. He didn't just see things, he interpreted them.
He was constantly asking, why is it like this?
Hey.
And how can I fix it? That curiosity never aged, even when he was 90.
So here's the question for you listening right now.
Yes.
What is your shed? Maybe you feel like you're too old to start that business or write that book or change careers. Maybe you think 40 or 50 or 60 is the finish line.
Momofuku Ando started his life's work at 48. He reinvented it at 61. He took it to space at 95.
So whatever idea you're sitting on, but whatever you think it's too late for, just remember the guy in the backyard shed.
The shed is waiting for you.
Go find your tempura moment. Thanks for deep diving with us today.
See you next time.